Hey guys, it's your host Julian. This week I sit down with the voice of Spear from Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal, Mr. Aaron LaPlante. In this episode we chat about how Gandy and Aaron linked up, how Aaron got to work on Primal, and we just got to geek out about animation, monsters, and so much more. The ComicCon story of watching it out in the wild with fans is pretty dope, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. I really had a lot of fun talking with Aaron. He's such a cool dude, down to earth, man. And like I said, Primal was my favorite show last year. They knocked it out of the park from production to animation to backgrounds to voicing. I love this show from start to finish. And you guys will hear that. If you're enjoying this podcast, man, drop us a rating on whatever platform you're listening to. Tell a friend and tell a family member. Thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoy this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to What's in My Head podcast. Today I'm joined by Mr. Aaron LaPlante, the voice of Spear from my favorite show, Primal. Aaron, how are you, sir?
Hi, good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, man. When I reached out to you, there's a couple times where I've reached out to guests. You being one, Craig McCracken, the creator of Powerpuff Girls and Wander Over Yonder, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. There was a couple times, like I said, where I reached out to somebody and I got my phone in my hand and I see a notification pop up. I'm like, oh, I wonder what this notification was. And it was Aaron LaPlante. I'm like, he wants to come on my show. And I dropped my phone, right? Dropped my phone all the way down the stairs, man. So, like I said, I've been super. Oh, it's okay. It was in an OtterBox. It's fine. It was perfectly worth it dropping the phone to see your name come up, say, yes, I would love to come on your show, man. So, like I said, super pumped for this one. So taking it back for the fans that might know, I would love to know how you and Gandy linked up for you to voice Spear for Primal.
Well, the first time I ever did voiceover as a cartoon character was in front of Gandy, if you can believe it. I had a meeting once with a casting director at Sony. She was kind enough to take a meeting with me. She's an animation casting director. And when we talked, we just kind of talked about everything under the sun. I wasn't even in the Screen Actors Guild or anything. She was just nice enough to talk to me and she seemed to like me. And a month or so went by and then she had my email and she said, we're working on a Popeye movie at Sony and we need somebody to do the temporary voice of the character Bluto. And obviously I was familiar with Popeye and Bluto, so I went and looked on YouTube just to kind of remind myself of his voice. And Bluto kind of talks out of the side of his mouth like this. And so I recorded it and sent it over to her, and she showed it to Gandy, and he said yes. And so when I went into the studio, I was playing Bluto in front of Genndy Tartakovsky. So I don't know. That's just, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say other than that was really surreal. But like right away, I think I don't know. I can't really speak for him, but we had a good time working together. I think I made him laugh and I think that he liked what I was doing and that project didn't go any, but then that's how we connected. And then over the years, I've been lucky enough to do Hotel Transylvania 2. I did a lot of the background monsters. And then Hotel Transylvania 3, the Gremlins, and we can talk about that stuff later. But so I think I've been in almost everything he's done since what he was working on Popeye in some capacity, even if it was just one line or something. So when this came about, because of my just because of the guttural nature of Bluto, maybe, or he just knew that I had a voice to be able to do something like Spear. And he didn't really know whether or not he wanted I like an animalistic voice or if he wanted a more human voice. So when I went to Cartoon Network and was recording with him, we just spent an hour and he decided whether or not he wanted it to be like something like that, or like more human, or which what it became, which is like in the very back of the throat. So that's how it happened.
That's awesome, man. I didn't know about the Popeye and Blue thing. One of my friends, another fellow podcaster, his name is Brandon. He does the Animation Destination podcast. If you like this one, you're going to love his show, man. So go and check that one out, ladies and gentlemen. But he was actually the one that hipped me to Gendy's Popeye, right? So I think for the little while, there's actually a clip up there. I don't know if it's since been taken down by Sony or anything like that, but it was going around, and I didn't know that you were doing the stand and then finally cast as Bluto for the project. I'm hoping that one will come back around because, like I said,
Yeah.
Gendy and like I said, I told you before, and the fans know Gendy is if there's a Mount Rushmore, he's on the first 2 or 3 spots of my Mount Rushmore. I mean, he's just a phenomenal creator, and then what he's done with Primal is this doesn't feel like a 22-minute cartoon, right? This feels like a Tarantino. This feels like a film. I'm sitting here watching this, and the way the title card comes up. I mean, I showed so there's certain shows that I'll go on if I want to get somebody hooked on it. I go to a specific episode. So for Rick and Morty, I'm going to go and show everybody Pickle Rick, right? If I'm going to go show everybody Primal, the Red Mist episode is one of the greatest things I have ever seen in my life. I mean, from start to finish, like you can't really tell right now. You couldn't tell in the Zoom call. I got goosebumps right now, man. Thinking about that, I've watched that episode so many times now at this point. Just like I said, it looked like a film. This is what this show feels. It feels like a film that's broken up into 10 parts. It's beautiful. The writing is excellent. The acting is excellent. The art is amazing, right? Was something like this when he approaches you and you went through the whole like 3 different stages of what Spear could possibly sound like, and this was a question we got asked a lot of by the fans. What does your throat feel like after doing this voice session? Like a lot of people are asking, do you drink tea, do you drink bourbon, do you drink water, what are you drinking to recuperate during this?
Well, when we first started, I just kind of went in there and went for it. And those are the scariest times because I think I had something to prove. I was trying to, even though Gandy was like, yes, you're going to do this. I still, when we did the first episode, I still wanted to prove, I had something to prove to him. And when you have something to prove, that's when you can screw up your voice. And I kind of did, frankly. I mean, it kind of hurt afterwards, but I saw an interview with Charlie Adler, who's a great voice actor and voice acting director, and he just simply said that he used to sing in the car on the way to a session, do whatever he was doing, and then sing on the way back. So that's where, if there was any sort of like preparation technique or something, that's what I would do. I would sing, and for this is totally true for Primal. I have about like maybe like a 45-minute drive from my apartment to the studio to Cartoon Network. And on that drive, I sing like 90s rap songs.
Nice.
But in like opera voice.
Really?
So it's like
what does Tupac sound like for you?
The east side of the LBC on a mission trying to find Mr. Warren G. And I do that because I know the lyrics to all of them. And this is kind of I when I was in the theater in Seattle to make my fellow actors laugh, sometimes I would do that in rehearsals. So I resorted to doing that on the way, and also just really just kind of making the effort sounds, but not going full force with them, but just really warming myself up. And sometimes I would make silly Instagram videos. Like if you go on my Instagram, it's at Dooder3, DOODER, the number 3, and scroll down a little bit. You can see videos of me doing weird shit with my voice, and I'm just outside of Cartoon Network about to do Primal. That's how I'm warming myself up, and I'm getting the motivation to warm myself up by making a silly video. So you can see so there's that. And then when I'm in there, I drink a lot of water, obviously, the whole time. And then afterwards I drink this stuff that I don't recall I can't remember what it's called, but it is you can get it in any Chinatown. It's like a Chinese cough syrup, basically, that's all natural. And it was told to me by a man named John Olson, who was in Rage of the Ape Men, the episode of Primal. He played the like shaman ape. He was the voice of that shaman ape. And he had this stuff, and he said that he had Ashore, who does the Incredible Hulk and every other giant, deep voiced character. And so he swore by that stuff. So I mix it with water and just like gargle with it and drink it down, because you can just kind of drink it down. I mean, it tastes all right. It's kind of sweet. It's weird, but that's what I do to condition my voice. And luckily, the schedule for Primal really is that it's never on a set schedule. I never know when they want me to come in there. It's only whenever they need me. And usually it's like once every like maybe month and a half. So who knows? I mean, I actually can't even honestly say, because sometimes a few months will go by. I mean, it's just kind of whatever their schedule is. And I'm not like privy to their schedule. I just kind of hang around until they call me,
So what we usually do for episodes is we'll take a piece of the episode, we cut that out, and then we put that at the front of the episode. So it kind of hooks somebody into what they can expect. 100% we are using opera Snoop Dogg at the beginning of this episode. That is one of my favorite stories. Man, we're going on probably 120 plus episodes that I've recorded so far. That's probably one of my favorite. That's top 3 stories I've ever heard on here. That is phenomenal. What's your?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's what as it pertains to the experience of Primal, I mean, that's what I have to say. I had told you earlier before we turned the mics on that I don't. I'm not I can't really speak to like Gendy's motivations or his creative process or anything. So it's kind of like that kind of stuff. I feel like over time, when asked to talk about my experience with Primal, that's the kind of stuff that I have to really say about it. You know what I mean?
That's such a phenomenal story to have too, man. What's your go-to songs before you walk in? What gets you in the Spear mindset? What 90s hip hop?
Oh, I mean, it's not even the song itself. It's just the fact that I am interpreting it as this like heroic song. And sometimes I will listen to like Les Mis, the song Stars in particular, because I like musicals when I was a kid. And so it's really it's not like metal or anything like that. It's all very like heroic and rap songs, because I mean, I like to be able to do Spear, you have to kind of have timing and rhythm. I mean, any voice, and there's a lot of, I mean, every voice actor I think has to have a sense of timing. And I'm stealing this from Genndy, because when people have asked him about me, that's something that I've heard him mention is it's having a sense of timing. And Phil LaMarr has an exquisite sense of timing, and he is the voice of one of Gendy's most famous characters,
Samurai Jack.
Yeah, so it's like and that's how I started doing this, was doing sketch comedy.
Yeah.
And so even though I didn't do the same kind of sketch comedy as Phil LaMarr did, he was on a really famous show, if you remember, Mad TV. But I think there's something to be said about that. A lot of sketch comedians become voice actors.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I said, thank you for sharing that story. So like I said, we're going to jump around here just a little bit, within Primal and with a couple other projects. At what point during this series, like we talked earlier, ladies and gentlemen, we said, because Aaron's here is caught up. I mean, by the time this one drops, the show will have wrapped. But what was it? The Colossus Part 3, I think, is the latest episode from last week. But when did you know? Like, I always like asking these questions, because most of the time you'll get an answer like, we didn't know, we were just trying to make something good and we hope people liked it. That's generally the answer I get whenever I ask this one. But did you have a sense of like, oh man, this show is going to be something, or this show is something? Was there an episode, or was there a series? Was there a breakdown? Was it a talk at a storyboard pitch? When did you kind of know that this show was going to be something?
Well, I was really lucky to I was able to see it for the first time on a big screen, like in a movie theater. And something that I never had the benefit of hearing was the music.
Yes.
When I record it, I see a lot of the visuals, and maybe I think pretty much, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but I think that I might be like one of the last things that they do. They create everything, and then the voices I don't know. I'm not sure, but it feels like that, because when I'm watching it on the screen, obviously I'm affected by it to try to rise to the level of the animation, because the performance is created by the animators.
Yeah.
It always is anyway, but I mean, like, you know, a lot of animators and voice actors are kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Whereas, again, and I'm not trying to diminish anything of my contribution. I'm just saying it's kind of an interesting experience as a voice actor, because a lot of times you record the voice first and they animate to it later, or they're animating to it and they're just matching it up however they do it. I don't know. But in this one, it's all done.
Yeah.
So as much as like I look at it and am affected by it and go, oh my gosh, and have I early on I used to ask Gandy, what's that, or where does that, whatever, and he'd show me whatever I wanted to see, so that it would help get the performance right. But then very quickly I was like, just forget everything you saw. Just watch it and try as best you can and as quickly as you can in as least amount of takes as you can. Just do it. And so everybody can get out of there.
Yeah.
And I can forget about it completely, because I think like we were talking before, I don't know if I already said this or not, but when it comes on TV, I want to experience it like everybody else.
Absolutely.
So I see it. And so it's hard for me to, like, in the early stages of it, I was just kind of, I mean, look, it's high art and you're just kind of there for it. You know what I mean? It's like, I was telling you before, it's like, before we even started the thing, it's like this great, I'm not trying to kiss anybody's ass here. I'm just saying, it's like a great artist is doing great art. And then they go, hey, Aaron, come here for a second. Help me out with this one part of it. And I go, I come in for a second and I do that and I leave. And then they just keep, you know what I mean? So it's this amazing thing about, like, almost feeling like you're on the outside, but on the inside. And I'm not trying to burst anybody's bubble about the experience. All I'm saying is it is a particularly unique experience.
I can imagine.
It just is.
If you're into anime, manga, comic books, movie reviews, or just pop culture, Spoiler Force Podcast is the place for you. Not only do I talk about nerdy topics, I have conversations with a variety of guests, such as musicians, Comic-Con artists, cosplayers, other podcasters, and people from all over the world. Join me as I go on this journey to find ways to help others express themselves with their creativity.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. And storyboard artists need writers. Writers need producers. Producers need directors. Directors need creators. And we all need voice actors, man. Everybody has a vital part. One thing that I absolutely love about animation is it's super collaborative. What I do for a living, I cook for a living, right? I do this on my nighttime. I do this at the nighttime as I butcher the English language. And I do this for fun, right? But with cooking, it's super collaborative. I can't do everything that they're supposed to do and what I'm supposed to do. I mean, I could, but it'd be a 22-hour day and I need some kind of sleep. And I've got a family and I've got some dogs and I've got a house and all my stuff is obviously all of my stuff is here. So I want to make sure I've got some time at home too. So it's super collaborative. And I love how you broke it down, man, because there's a lot of people, both on camera and off camera will say, oh, what I do is the most important thing. What I do is more important than that. So it's nice and refreshing to hear, and that's nothing against any of the guests I've had on, but it's nice to hear that man, it's super collaborative. Everybody's got their part to play, and everybody has to excel at that. You don't get the beautiful, amazing show that this is if everybody isn't in unison. Everybody isn't working to put out the best, beautiful, most important show on TV right now. So
we did a panel at Comic-Con, and Scott Wills, the art director,
beautiful work.
And he just, when I heard him talk about it, I mean, in that moment, I felt sort of a kindred spirit in my sort of bewilderment. Obviously, he works way closer with Genndy than I do, but he had this thing where he kind of spoke to when he first started working with Genndy. And he spoke to the fact that he's just kind of like, all right, well, I obviously do what I do, but I'm going to go with this guy. I'm just going to work with him. Like, I want to work with him, and it's, for me, it's one of those things where it's nothing that I can control. But obviously, when I first worked with them, that's how I felt too. Just like, geez, I mean, like, it feels really, gives me a lot of self-esteem that something I have that he finds useful sometimes. Yeah. It's an honor, Yeah,
I
it's
really,
phenomenal.
I can imagine, man. And everybody that I've ever had on, I've had quite a few people that have worked on Samurai Jack with him, Powerpuff Girls when he was producing Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's when Dexter's was going. Nobody's ever said anything less than the guy is so far ahead of his time. He is a master at his craft. He's a genius, right? You see the work he puts out; it's second to none, in my opinion. But going back to well, let's stay on Gendy for just a sec. What's your favorite? I always like asking this question because it's always interesting what kind of stories we can pull out of you guys. What's your favorite Gendy story? Do you have one that whenever you think of Gendy comes to mind?
Um, I mean, I here's the thing about my working relationship with him. I mean, Comic-Con was an incredible experience. I
Yeah.
mean, look, I
Was that your first one?
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, when Primal first came out and they premiered it, I drove down there and just kind of like went in, watched it on the big screen and then left. So it wasn't like an actual Comic-Con experience, but Gendy, we were all there and it was, I mean, it was it was cool because it was like I just got to be there by myself. In terms, I don't mean by myself, I just mean like this huge thing was going on and I
Yeah.
was just there. You know what I mean? Like there were like it's yeah, I don't know. Anyway, uh I would say that my favorite thing about Gendy, the favorite story I tell about him is a
Mhm.
general story. And it is that not anymore, but early on, because I was so green and because I didn't know anything, you're like teaching yourself how to do this like amazing thing in front of one of the greatest fucking animators
Yes.
to ever live.
Yes.
But I didn't know, but I, at the time, I was just kind of like, doo, doo, you know what I mean? I was just like doing whatever I thought I should do.
Yeah.
So I think now I would be a lot more intimidated. I think at the time you're just kind of, luckily I was very lucky in that I could just be like, I want to be Pluto for you. You know what I mean? Like, but, sorry.
Oh, you're perfectly fine.
To get to the story, when, whenever I would be done with a recording session with him, I always would leave and I would go, it was like I just went on a date with a girl that's really out of my league. I had fun. I think she had fun. Not that Gendy's a shit, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's like
Absolutely. Yes.
because he was always because Gendy is just like that, like just kind of like, yeah, man, that was great.
Yeah.
And for like such an insecure actor, you kind of it gives you that kind of like, okay, you know what I mean? And early, so it was just so funny that like that was such a memorable experience because it let me just kind of develop. It's not like Gendy, and it's so cool. He just kind of doesn't say like, okay, Aaron, you're on a horse, okay? And then you know what I mean? He just kind of either shows me or tells me very simply. And I'm there for a reason. And I don't know. Sorry, that's not even a Gendy story. That's just an overall like something that is the most memorable thing about him is that, you know, in a business or just in a world of a lot of pomp and circumstance and just people kind of, I don't know, genuine personalities where it's like, I am doing this thing and this is what you're helping. This is how you're helping me do this thing. It was nice to see you. I'll see you again, maybe. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, you know, but over these years, it's been a lucky, but also I just get to keep coming back. Sorry if I seem terminally bewildered, but I mean, that's the truth of it.
No, it's perfectly fine, man. I really appreciate you getting to explain your experience. I really enjoy that, man. And what I like about questions like, "Hey, man, what was your experience with Gendy?" Everybody's got something different, right? From Robert Alvarez, a guy that's been in the animation industry 50 plus years. He's a national treasure, man. I tell that. Like he ushered in the guys like the Gendys, the Craig McCrackens, the Rob Renzettis, you know, the people that changed. They took what Cartoon Network was at that point in time, which was just a place where they bought out the Hanna-Barbera libraries and were just replaying Looney Tunes. And then with the innovation from Betty Cohen, Fred Seibert, Linda Semensky, Mike Lazo. You know, they took what Cartoon Network was then, and then they catapulted it to what it is now. I mean, obviously, if you talk, depending on what side of the fan base you talk to, whether it's folks my age, 30s, they'll say it's complete shit now. If you talk to kids in their 20s, they're like, "Oh my god, it's the greatest network." So it definitely in flux right now with the HBO merger, with Discover, with Cartoon Network and Warner and all that shit. So it's in this huge uproar. However, the whole point of that is getting to see stories and hear stories from you, like Robert, like Randy, Robert and Zeddy, Craig, about working with Genndy. Like I said, it's always fascinating to hear what you guys' personal experiences were. So thank you for sharing that story. I really appreciate that story. So with the show like Primal, like obviously we talked about, you know, you watching it like you're a fan, like us, you're a fan of the show just like we are, man. You want to experience it just like we do. When you got to see it on that big screen at Comic-Con, was there, I think that was during COVID times, or was this before COVID that it premiered it?
Before. Yeah, it was
Okay.
before. I mean, it was before it ever came out. This was like Comic-Con, so that's July. And
2019.
yeah, and then you know that came out in October. So it was, I mean, it was, yeah, and it was outside, and I'd never been to Comic-Con before, and yeah, I don't know, it was crazy, and it was the experience of just kind of standing there by yourself. I mean, I'm not from here, I'm not, you know what I mean, like you're something incredible is happening, and you're just kind of experiencing it alone. I don't know why that's profound, even though Gendy was, we were all there. But I mean, it was just one of the things that was really funny was there was they screened 2 episodes of it. The first 2, the first one in Spear and Fang and River of Snakes. And I thought the first River of Snakes, I really was like, kind of like, holy shit. Like I felt kind of proud of myself in terms of like what I had done or how I had helped out. Just because Spear does a lot in that one. And sorry, what was funny was everywhere I went, people kept going, "Sir, you can't go here, sir, you can't go." I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I do the voice of that, and people still do this. They're like, "Well, he doesn't talk." I'm like, I know he doesn't talk, I know, but he makes the sound. You know, if you watch it, and they're just like, "Sir, you can't." And at one point, I think I remember, maybe I'm sugarcoating this story a little bit, but I think there was just a perfectly nice person that said, we were walking back after the screening was over, Gandy and his family and the producers and our Scott Wills and they're all walking back, and I'm kind of walking with them, and they're like, "Sir, you can't." And I was like, I'm the voice. That the caveman guy, I do the voice. And they were like, "Okay, God." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I don't mean to." I'm sorry. Oh, it was great. To answer your question, it was great. It was a wonderful, amazing sort of experience. And then also walking back and just kind of talking. I was talking to Gandy, and I kind of just like, I got kind of emotional. I had a moment where it was, I mean, I'm not going to say what I said, but it was just kind of like, it was fucking cool. It was great.
I got to imagine, man.
Things ever.
Now, when they premiered those 2 episodes, I got to imagine there was a huge crowd of people that got to see all this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a few thousand people. Yeah, I mean, because they did it outside. They usually Adult Swim or different. I mean, it was different this year, but they took over the whole sort of outside area, outside the convention center, the lawn area, and they had like a big stage or whatever. And yeah, it was great.
What was that like? I mean, now collectively, whenever you go, I'm a huge movie goer. I love, like, going to the movies is my Disney World. I love the pageantry. I love walking in and smelling the popcorn. This is going to sound stupid. I love when I step in gum, even though I hate when I step in gum. Like, that whole process of going to the movies is super magical. There's something special about, I don't know what it is. I don't know where that got ingrained in my head, but it's just like, you see, it was like a special occasion, especially for us growing up. I mean, it's not like we were dirt poor, but 5 kids, single mom, it was kind of difficult for all of it, right? So Yeah, it was a
Absolutely.
special moment.
Yeah.
So whenever I get to go to the movies, it's a collective experience. You're sitting there, you're laughing with everybody else, like everybody's crying at the same scene or angry at this one character, laughing at the stupidest joke possible. So I got to imagine you performing something that you recorded and then they went and showed it to thousands of people. What was that experience for you like specifically? Sitting in a crowd of people, watching them watch what you guys put together. What was that experience like?
I think I just was just watching it with them
Yeah.
and kind of taking it in like they were taking it in, and actually not aware because I was, just because I mean, I still feel kind of inexperienced, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just because voiceover careers don't really go the way they used to. There's a lot to work, there's a lot of work to be done, but it really just kind of it's not like, you don't, it's not like Ninja Turtles where you do a show and there's like 20 some odd episodes of it and you're employed. It's kind of like you do a little bit here, you do a little bit there. I mean, Primal's one of the only things that I've ever done that I've got to be in every episode of it.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of was like watching it with everybody. And I think that sort of at the end when Genndy did a little talk, because again, when we work together, he doesn't share with me his like motivations, but you know what I mean? He doesn't need to. We just, I just go, holy shit, that's amazing. And then I try to rise to the occasion. But holy shit, I'm sorry. What was the question?
Oh, it's
What was it? Oh, sorry. What was it like? So yeah, it's just a great memory, but I didn't feel anything other than just like, holy shit, this is a great show.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's echoing the same sentiments from us fans. Um, is there any episode that you're more proud of than one of the others? Does one or two of them stick out, maybe from season one,
Yeah.
season two?
They asked that, somebody asked that at Comic-Con, and where they said, what are our favorite ones? And the Coven of Witches one is such a great episode anyway. But when I go back, there are some that one in particular, because there's that one where the guy is like being burned, the other, not Spear, but the guy like the
Yeah.
big guy burned over the fire. I did all that screaming too. And that episode was recorded after COVID happened. So just in my I was like really cooped up, wasn't working, was
Pent up
scared.
rage. Yeah.
And I was working as a bartender and a server, and I lost my job. And so I was just kind of like, okay. So then when we got to do that, I was really like, I mean, I obviously give it all I got when we do these episodes, but that was a different experience. It was also remote because the first season, for the most, well, no, the first 5 episodes at least, Gandy, we were in the room together.
Yeah.
But it's been a long time since not a long time, but it's been a while since we've been in the room together. And so yeah, that one, when I don't know, when I listen to it or when I see it, it sort of evokes something in me I'm just like, that was a crazy fucking time.
Yeah, it transports you back to that time.
Yeah. And then also the episode is just incredible because there's just the going back in time. I don't know. It was incredible. And then the Red Mist, when because when Spear is fighting these guys hand to hand, not always, certainly not in the later episodes, but early on like that, I'm doing both of the voices in some instances, and that felt kind of cool to be able to do that. And when it was put together, it felt like I felt kind of proud of that, because there's something to be said about it's like stage acting, film acting, voice acting. I mean, it's obviously it's all acting, but it's different. And I think with voice acting particularly, and with film acting, but with voice acting particularly, is that the performance is done in moments. And for Primal, if there's this big sequence where this huge fight is happening, and I'm trying, sorry, This
You're
huge
fine.
fight is happening. Try not to make more out of it than it. Sorry.
You're fine. You're fine.
I'm kind of self-conscious about this kind of stuff because it is my experience. But anyway, sorry. So to be able to like snap into a moment of performance and then snap right back out of it and just sit there and again, and people talk or whatever, and you watch it or whatever, and then go from just chilling out to then snapping right back into the intensity and going back and forth like that. I think specifically voice acting, that's what that's all about. I mean, obviously film acting, because you say action and cut, and any kind of acting. I'm not saying anyone's better than the other, but for this one specifically, there's just something that's kind of that's so crazy about that's the challenge of it, I guess. But I'm helped so much by the fact that I get to see it while I'm doing it. It's not like I make it. Gendy says, make this kind of sound, and I make it. I'm watching it. Every time Spear makes a sound, I'm watching do it clip by clip. So I watch and see what he does and how he opens his mouth and how long he opens his mouth. And then I just try to do it. And because I've done a lot of anime, I had some experience doing that. And almost that's the cornerstone of almost any actor's career. At one time or another, actors have to do that. A lot of on-camera actors have to do it for themselves. They shoot something out in the fucking desert or whatever, and you can't hear them. Then they have to go back in and match their own intensity. I mean, I think it's a crazy thing that I hadn't. Even though it's like doing anime, it was there's something, I don't know. There's something unique about it.
Now, you said something I wanted to circle back to. Now, it's a two-parter, really. Whenever you're watching it and you're getting into that headspace, like you said, you're snapping in, you're snapping out, you know, you go from super intense to now I'm airing again, now I'm super intense, right? Was there any point in time while recording anything for the show Primal where you're sitting there, you're trying to get in that mode, and then you see something, you're like, holy fucking shit, this is a show I'm working on? I got to imagine you've had, like I said, there's some moments in the show where you go, holy shit, they went for it on this one. Was there any of those moments where it took you right out?
There was two moments. One, Rage of the Eight Men, just fighting, and I mean, you know, just and then when he turns into that, I mean, like when I don't know, I was just like, I mean, that was crazy. That was crazy. I mean, I was just like, and then the Plague of Madness.
Yes.
Just the look, just what it, I mean, yeah, that just kind of blew my mind. It kind of threw me off a little bit.
Creepy as shit.
Yeah.
Because that was the one with the dinosaur that was infecting everything, right?
Yeah.
Dude, like, I don't know what it was. It was probably, if we're going to be honest, it was probably the weed, Aaron, because like I said, I'll watch these things twice. I get super duper baked the night it drops. I usually stay up because I usually have Thursdays off. I don't have Thursdays off tomorrow, but I usually have Thursdays off, and then I stay up as late as possible because I'm doing podcasts usually Wednesday night, and then I'm doing some editing. I'm doing some stuff to get, you know, everything set up for, you know, so I don't have to do it all in one day. And I usually stay up long enough to watch Primal on Thursdays. And then, so I'm sitting there, I'm watching it. I remember specifically because I was home at this point in time because we weren't working as much, because I also work, like I said, I work in the food industry. So we all got sent home, and it sucked, man. Like, you didn't know when you were going to get a job again, right? So, you know, a few months passed, and I'm in Florida. So everything was the wild, wild west out here. So it kind of opened up a little, it was opened up a lot. You know, so we started going back to work, but I still wasn't working as much as I usually do. So I had plenty of time, plenty of free time. I remember very rough day. So it was a 2-joint kind of days, right? So I'm sitting there, I come back in, and I'm space cadeted. Like, if you've ever watched Star Wars and you close your eyes when they're going, you know, light speed, that's what it felt like when I closed my eyes. I thought I was interdimensional traveling, right? So I remember putting this episode, I'm like, oh shit, they got a new episode. Fuck yeah, man. I'm super pumped. And I remember, like, oh, I really should turn the lights on. I really wish my wife was up right now because I'm starting to feel like this shit's behind me. That episode scared the shit out of me when I was fucked up. So
that's cool. That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I love it. I mean, because I that's so great. Well, you had said earlier about how you got your son into it. He's what, 13?
He'll be 13.
And that's super. I mean, I don't know. What has sustained me pretty much my whole life is the stuff that I like, you know, like this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Just like all, you know.
Was that the Universal Monsters up there?
Yeah, but they're called Sokies.
Yeah.
They're the 60s, and they
Yeah.
had like bubble bath in them.
Oh, that's really cool, man. I've always been a
Dad's
Frankenstein.
when he was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Frankenstein
then
monster has always been my favorite.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I'm saying is that like there's something about I just can't wait until like, years from now, there's like going to be some young person making some incredible show and they're going to be interviewed and somebody's going to be like, so what were some of your influences? And for them to be like, well, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's inevitable. And I just look forward to that because it is this weird paying it forward
Yes.
in a weird way of like not that I'm paying it forward, but I am involved in something that's
Yes.
paying that forward in terms of nostalgia. Because sometimes you can see something and I don't mean nostalgia in like a Marilyn Monroe picture that you hang on your dorm room wall. I mean like real nostalgia, stuff that is just you take it with you your whole life. And
Thought provoking.
shop for you on your birthday,
Mhm.
they know what to look for based on what you know what I mean? Like, and so the fact that it's part of that, and it might sustain people like yourself or anyone else that's listening to this
Mhm.
is just holy shit. It's the best part about it. It's the best part about it.
Absolutely, man.
Can we pause for a second? Sorry, can we pause for a second? I'm gonna get a little bit more.
And we're back, man. And one more topic before we rotate into the fans' questions, because like I said, there was quite a few, and I didn't want to keep you all because just to let you know, man, there's probably about 150 questions. Not a couple of, I'd probably say about 20% of the questions were all the same thing in different, I guess, different iterations or different wordings. A lot of it was like, how do you not destroy your voice? What do you do in between takes? That type of stuff.
I feel like I answered a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, you answered that one for sure with the Chinese cough drop that you could, or not cough drop, excuse me, cough syrup, and then gargling with water and stuff like that. So there's a lot of those, but like I said, there's quite a few good questions. But like I said, my favorite episode and what the one episode that I continually show everybody is that Red Mist episode. Now with the last week's episode where both did they ever give a name to the big guy that was he was the other slave that was enslaved by the queen. I don't even know what her name was or if she even had a name.
At the end in the credits, you just got to pause it, and
Yeah, yeah, I got it.
I mean, sometimes they'll give a name
Yeah,
because I think it's important that the characters do have names, but then every now and again they'll be like guard number 2 or whatever. Or,
yeah,
but yeah. So I think you could find that out if you just
yeah. I have to Google that one out, man. But just the big guy that was just this massive colossus of a person, and then he was being pretty much, like I said, enslaved because he was afraid that the queen would kill his daughter. That episode is so powerful. That last episode, like I said, that just dropped last week, so powerful. But the Red Mist, man, start to finish, like I said, the whole show's perfect, but this is like, in my opinion, this is like the cream of the crop, right? What Macho Man Randy Savage said, the cream will always rise at the top. This is the cream that's rising to the top. This episode, perfect. One of my favorite scenes in this entire episode was right before the red mist rolls in, right? And then you start to see pretty much just shit go crazy. Everything, the shit hits the fan, and so few words. The shit hits the fan, and it's the scene where Fang would jump up on top, right? So you hear the dinosaur before you even see it, right? So it's got this suspense that's building up, like old school horror movies, like Alien in particular, right? You would hear the alien, you wouldn't see it just for a split second. That's it was building that suspense, right? So you're hearing the dinosaur, you're hearing this dinosaur jumps up on the building, does that beautiful roar, and then it falls straight through the fucking house. I thought that was so funny. It builds up this super suspenseful moment, and then it cracks for just a second to bring some kind of humor. So what I've found in these shows that not only Genny does, but a lot of folks that are masters at the craft, what they do is they bring you up and they bring you back down just a little bit to bring you way back higher than what the bar was just set at. So I love the pacing of this show. But one of the most telltale signs of the entire episode is you see the conflict in Spear when he kills the kid by accident. I mean, obviously, he had a kid, he had a family of his own, and then it was wiped out. Same thing with Fang, had a family wiped out. And then he kills this kid. And then you see everything on his face. What I love about this show you know, there's very little dialogue whatsoever, right? And then everything is character driven. Everything is, you're supposed to be looking at these characters. There was a story I heard about Gandy where he learned English by watching Looney Tunes, right? He came from Russia. He didn't know English. He didn't know how to communicate. So he learned all of this stuff. And I think it might have been Randy Myers where it was saying, he's like, he took that what he saw and grew up on, and he implemented that into his work. So with animation, you shouldn't really need voices. You shouldn't need to hear stuff. You should be able to see whatever's on that character. You should be able to know what he's thinking. And you guys, like I said, have knocked that out so bad. But when you see that scene of Spear smashing that kid on a rock, and he's like, oh fuck, I just killed a kid, you see something switch and change in him. Now with you particular, when you see in that scene, does that affect you? That like how do you get in that headspace where you're like, oh fuck, I just killed this kid? Not obviously you, but you know, your character, like, I just killed this kid. Like, what's going through your head when you're trying to navigate how to convey what Spear's going through during this scene?
Well, I think the benefit that I have is that I get to react to stuff at the same time that he is. So when he does something for the first time, I'm doing it for the first time with him.
Yeah.
You know, because I kind of I don't think of myself as I think of Spear as this incredible character, and I'm his voice.
Yeah.
I think more about being voice than I think about being like him.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he needs to react to something, the animation is so striking that I have that benefit. I think that's why it's so unique, because you get that in anime a lot, where you just get to really see what is happening and have an organic reaction to it, but you're as the character, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, so it really is just trying to get it right, just trying to rise to the occasion, just trying to rise to the level. Just, obviously this is all about imagination.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get things that help you with your imagination. If you're an actor on a set, or on stage, you're wearing a costume. The other actors are wearing costumes. They're acting with you, so you get the benefit of that. Not to say that it's any easier, but I'm as a voice actor, I think I'm lucky to get the extra benefit of the visual.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're watching shows like these, now I asked this, you might know him, you might not, but I know you've done some anime work too. But Kyle Aber, any chance you know him?
No, I've heard that name before for sure, but it is, another thing about the voiceover business, or at least the one that I'm in,
Mm-hmm.
is that I'm kind of alone all the time.
Yeah.
You hear stories about actors getting to be in the room together and kind of playing off each other. And I got to do that on Samurai Jack with Phil and some of the other, and Tara Strong and people like that, which was incredible. That was one of the first times I ever got to be on a TV show.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. But so I hear these names, and every now and again, especially with social media too. So you start to follow people, and you start to like feel like you know them, but you actually don't. And then you have occasion to meet, and it's kind of weird because you have this like deja vu about a person that you've never even met.
Yeah.
Or you've never even been in, you know what I mean? But they know that you just went to Seattle for your cousin's wedding, or you know what I mean? Like it's a weird thing. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't picture him, but I've heard that name, of course, before.
Oh yeah, it's perfectly fine. But before I ask you that question, are you from Seattle originally?
I'm from a town called Lake Stevens, Washington, which is about an hour north of Seattle in like Western Washington.
My first duty station was Bremerton, Washington. That's where my oldest son was actually born. That is my favorite. Yeah. Favorite state I've ever lived in. It is funny. I don't think I've ever told the story on the podcast, but I want to say July 5th, my wife comes up there. I just had surgery on July 4th of all days. I had to have my gallbladder taken out, right? 19 years old, thought I was having a heart attack. They're like, yeah, man, you just got a gallstone. I was like, well, that sucks. How do we get rid of it? And they're like, well, we're going to have to put you under. I was like, fuck, I've never been under before. I was scared. This is my first duty station, first time being away from home. So, flash forward, my wife comes out, and she's a couple months pregnant at this point. And then once I start, I'm able to like move and stuff again. It took me about a month because they cut you like 4 times. It's a lot better than what they used to do with the surgery, where you've got this like long scar on the side of your ribs or whatever when they cut you open like a fish. But it just took a long time for me to feel normal again, right? So I think it was Mount Olympia or Mount Olympus, something like that. I want to say it was Mount Olympia, but at the top of the mountain they had this like opening that you could go to, and you could look through these huge binoculars and you could see this whole forest and everything like this. But when we went up to the top, there was like this little breakaway path that you could hike up and then do a little trail stuff. And we're hiking it up, and like I said, my wife's a few months pregnant now at this point, and the elevation's a lot higher than what we're used to in Florida, because it's fucking sea level in Florida and you're up in mountains and shit. So, and she's pregnant, so it's a little bit harder for her, right? So we get to the top of this little hill that's probably like 20 feet from where the road started, and it's a straight climb up, right? And she's having trouble, so we started to walk back, but we saw this sign, right? And the sign says, "Beware of angry goat." And we're like, this can't be a real fucking sign, right? So we look, and I take a picture. I got the picture somewhere. It was back when you still had before phones really had good cameras. So I had a little, disposable one. So I took a picture of it. But yeah, it was like this: beware of angry goat. And then underneath that, it says the goat has been known to charge and attack and bite people. So it's just these stories of this goat fucking chasing people through the mountains. But yeah, man, it's a beautiful, beautiful state. It's my favorite state I've ever lived in. I tried to go back. I tried to get my wife to move back. She wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I went up there a couple of weeks ago, and I unfortunately have to go to I have to go to a memorial up there. So I'm leaving Friday. I'm going to go up there and just be up there until Sunday.
Yeah, it's a like I said, man. I don't have to tell you, man. It's a beautiful fucking state up there. Plus, not a lot of sun, and it's my people's time to shine. No pun intended. With no sun, I don't get sunburned. It's a great day. But nonetheless, man. I don't even know how we got on this topic other than I just love that state. But so we like to rotate in the fans question. I actually forgot to give you this one. I like to give this one because it tends to trip people up. So I apologize. I forgot to do this one. You get a Mount Rushmore, right? So since you're in the voice acting game, I'd love to keep it to your 4 favorite voice actors of all time, or anybody that's inspired you, but you get 4 plus an honorable mention. So who's on your Mount Rushmore when it comes to voice actors?
Eric Bauza.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I'm so glad you brought him up. He doesn't get brought up enough.
Eric Bauza, John DiMaggio.
Ooh, another great one.
Fred Tatasciore.
Mm-hmm.
And Lorraine Newman.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's incredible. I mean, that's so hard because it's also, I know a lot of these people, so it's not like you fucking leave me off the list, Aaron. I mean, I'll tell you, in terms of like my awareness of voice actors too, because I mean, I liked cartoons when I was a kid. I'm a movie guy. I love movies, horror movies in particular. And so I was kind of not like ignorant of, but these characters, I didn't know who did the voice of these characters. And there was John DiMaggio's documentary, I Know That Voice. And it really was just kind of this like, just like a syllabus of all the best voice actors in the past and now. And I mean, there was a lot of people in that. And I would watch that, and I would watch it in this kind of, sometimes you watch, I don't know, maybe you have this experience, and I'm sure other people listening might, where like I want to be a voice actor. So I watched that documentary, and in a way, it just kind of, I watch it just to kind of be around it and listen to people talk about it. It's almost like by osmosis. And I used to watch it all the time. And then after a while, this is weird, but I would watch it. And then if I got a chance to do a voiceover session for something, I would watch it the night before I did it and have that feeling of like, I get to go and do this tomorrow, and for Hotel Transylvania 2, it was a group session, a loop group where we were playing all the different monsters. And for movies, it's really hard to get involved with those loop groups. And I got to be involved with it. So I watched the documentary the night before, and then the next day I show up, and a lot of them were there. Fred Tatasciore, Jess Harnell, Kari Waldron, Mona Marshall. You know what I mean? And Todd Habercourt, so many people. And it was a crazy experience to just be like sitting there and in a loop group session, like, oh, we got this next cue. Who wants to do it? So like, I'm going to jump up in front of one of these amazing voice actors and be like, I'm going to do it. You want me to do it? You know, it was a crazy experience, but it was like, but again, like I said before, I mean, Eric Bowes is a really good friend of mine, but I am also endlessly inspired by him.
Yes.
And he passes off stuff, just like genius stuff in between bites of pizza. Like we're just having a pizza or something. He'll be like, you know what? And then he'll go into some kind of thing and I'll just be like, what is going on? And then he'll just like take a bite of pizza and keep talking about whatever. Because you know how people do, you know how anybody does, everybody does this. You tell a story and you do the voices of the people in the story. You know, oh, my boss was like, hey, could you go clean out the walk-in? Or like whatever, you do the voice. And some people could do better voices than others. So when you're like hanging out with somebody like Eric Bauza or Brock Powell is another one. He's a great voice actor. Like hanging out with those guys and hearing them do the voices of just the people that they come in contact with on whether it be like, you know, somebody at the grocery store or somebody that they were talking to from an insurance company on the phone or something. I mean, that's where the shit is born. It's funny. It's cool to be there for that, you know?
Absolutely, man. And I got a quick story for you. So do you have kids?
No.
Okay, so they're the most honest, brutally honest people you'll ever meet, right? They are straight to the point and they don't mean to hurt your feelings when they do mean to hurt your feelings, right? If that makes any sense. It's like a fucking paradox, right? So I read my kids' stories every night. My oldest, right, that just turned 13, he's a few years old at this point, and I was reading stories and I tried to imitate voices that I think that these characters would sound like, right? I'm not very good, right? I would just throw funny voices. And there was one point in time where he just wanted to go to sleep. He's like, Dad, can we just skip the funny voices and just read it regular? He's like, you're not good at this. Just stick to cooking. That's what you're good at, man. I was like, wow, this really cuts deep. I thought I was good at this. And, man, I'm not. So I just wanted to echo your story. It's just like, man, I thought I was good. But yeah, so they'll cut you down. I echo that same sentiment, man. Eric is a phenomenal actor, man, and the fact that he also did animating before. I love what he's doing with his clothing company, the Retro Kids. So it's a free plug for Eric there, man. I love what you're doing. So the other one, I'm not sure. This is gonna sound like an asshole of a question. Do you read much?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's like old monster magazines and stuff. You know, it's like or like yeah, I don't know. But I listen to podcasts and stuff and I watch the Twilight Zone. I don't know. I'm just kind of like
the Twilight Zone.
I don't know, a lazy consumer. I don't know. Yeah. Why do you ask?
Well, I'm going to ask you that, but I'm going to ask you another question real quick first. What's your favorite podcast? What's your favorite podcast to listen to? And it's okay to say the What's in My Head podcast, the one you're on right now. If you want to say that one.
Podcast. But also Gilbert Godfrey's Amazing Colossal Podcast.
Yes. Rest in peace, Gilbert.
It's and it's also just the stories are incredible. And then I mean, I don't know if anybody is ever like, what are you interested in, Aaron? Just be like, just listen to that podcast. That's that stuff. Monsters, you know, like, I mean, I don't know, that and old showbiz stories and stories about, I don't know, just kind of the behind the scenes of and people that like because the business it used to be a lot more intimate. Now it's huge, but it's always been pretty big. So there's these people that take up these little pockets of time. And it's easy to just kind of, if enough time passes, you don't know who they are. Because if I went up to somebody and said like, do you know who George Burns is? They'd be like, no. You know what I mean? And it's fine, whatever, it's fine. It's not like I mean, I'm only 39. It's not like I'm like, you whippersnappers don't know. It's not that at all. It's just, and I'm interested in just monsters and stuff. I don't know. That's my favorite podcast.
Well, yeah, but the only reason I asked the book one because this is the other one we do because there's a lot of folks that listen to this that are animators. There's a lot of folks that listen to this that are voice actors, and there's a lot of folks that are trying to break into those two professions. So one thing I love doing, and this actually started with Tom Cito. He was an author, and he had a whole bunch of books on him, and he would just recommend some books to me. So this is one we like to do. What is there a book or two on voice acting, or even two books that you absolutely love that might deal with animation or outside of animation, or two books that you think every person should have on their shelves?
I listened to Rob Paulson's book that he most
Yes,
recently
it is
came
so
out.
good.
I know I didn't. I read it. I read that one,
Yeah,
and that was it was beautiful. It was amazing. Um, and also just about adversity, and I don't know. It was really great. So in terms of voice acting, there's that. And this is not about voice acting or animation, but Bruce Campbell's book,
Yeah.
because he talks about the spirit that everybody has now, which is let's get our iPhone and make a movie. Let's do a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that spirit of just the DIY. You know, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell and all those guys were doing that in Detroit even back then. And it also is kind of a mind your manners kind of thing when it comes to being an actor.
Yeah.
What it is to and what it is to you're like a person who does acting, but maybe not an actor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people, I'm an actor, and they
Yeah.
define themselves as such. So when they don't get the part, they feel like a bad person. You know what I mean? Whereas like you can just be a person who acts. You know what I mean? So because when it comes to voice acting, or at least for me, it has to do with just being a fucking nice guy.
Yeah.
Just kind of and being and not coming in and dicking around. I mean, like that, just just being nice. I think that's why Gendy and I work together well, because that's what it's kind of all about. Sorry, I just went on. I stood up on a soapbox. Let me get off.
You're perfectly
I'll tell
fine.
you about the books. But anyway, yeah. So like I just recently listened to that one, and it gave me a lot of good feeling. It was, because it's sentiment that can be applied now. And now we've got phones and we can do shit, and we have got microphones and computers. And I mean, like, I don't do all the podcasts I'm asked to do. I don't get asked to do a shitload, but some of them I just go, I'm not going to do that. But, right now it's like, I've always wondered like what my era was going to be, you know what I mean? Because I'm so obsessed with the eras of the past.
Mm-hmm.
And listening to fucking Gilbert Gottfried's podcast and having him talk about the 50s and the 40s and and have people on from that were there, and I think about my era and I'm like, this is my era.
Yeah. Well, it's funny,
My
man.
living room and talking to somebody from Florida about this thing that I do. You know what I mean? It's great. Yeah.
It really is, man. And it's crazy how connected we are. Not in a sense like you and I, but just connected that we are as a people, right? How you're sitting where you're sitting, I'm sitting where I'm sitting. And it's fucking wild to think that we're on opposite sides of the country, and then we're talking to each other through fucking space that's bouncing off of metal up there, that's bouncing back down to here, and we're looking at each other from across the country. It's fucking wild when you think about it. And what I absolutely love about podcasting in particular is you don't have to have a set script. You don't have to have really anything. I love what you fucking do. That's why I wanted you on, and I'm so glad you said yes. And the simple fact that I get to sit here and talk to you and pick your brain for just a little while, it's fucking baffling. Like I've had some of those people that you mentioned, I've had on my podcast. Rob Paulson was my first episode that I released, right? I've had Billy West on. I told them, and I had Billy West on before, I think it was before episode 10. And I literally looked at Billy West during the middle of the podcast. It might even be, I think it was right in the middle. I was like, dude, I've peaked. I was like, I had my two favorite, like the voices that I hear from a little kid to now for every character they've ever done. Those are the voices that I hear. I hear those. Right.
Well,
and it's fucking wild.
The thing is too, is, for me, especially as it pertains to podcasts, is that when you say Rob Paulson and Billy West, and I've never met either one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I've never worked. I think maybe we might have done something, but I never worked with either one of them. But they all worked with each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's something that so I feel like I'm kind of missing that. I feel like I'm missing that influence. But I'm, friends with people like Eric Bauza, where we get to be like experiencing each other, maybe outside of the voiceover booth, and we get a chance to like just kind of talk, and I get to sort of hear him comment about his experience and what he's doing and how, and his thoughts about the craft of voice acting. That is amazing. But with podcasts, I feel like, in the years where I was like miles away from getting to do anything even remotely like this, I listened to podcasts, and they were able to get a little bit more intimate because they were recorded in people's living rooms, or in people's garages, you know, like, so people could get more candid. And so in a way, I feel like I've been the beneficiary of a wave of inspiration that didn't exist before.
Absolutely.
If you were a voice actor and you lived, you know, somebody like, you hear people like Bob Bergen talk about, like, you know, being a kid and really having to go the extra mile to research people like Mel Blanc, and you know what I mean, like, and really now any kid who's interested in any given subject can just look it up on YouTube.
It's at your
I mean,
fingertips.
that's what I do at almost every night, as I just, anything I'm curious about, I just look up and I just watch these weird little documentaries about any subject.
Yes.
So great. I don't know. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, you're perfectly fine. You don't have to apologize.
Is there like a bunch of questions? Do you want to do like a rapid fire kind of
Yeah,
thing?
we'll do as many as we got time for. And yeah, but there is, and it's funny you brought up Bob. I got Bob coming on in a couple weeks.
Oh,
And I'm really looking forward to that one. This one's really good, man. This is from prestigious_skill. What's it like voice acting on a show with almost no dialogue versus a show with dialogue? What are some of the similarities and differences that you'll have for those?
I mean, I think that, like, it really is just it's really variety. Because when you're playing a character and you're going through a whole emotion, I don't know, it's interesting. Primal is more beat by beat.
Yeah.
But it's the same principle. But Primal is more sort of emotional and with emotional intention. Whereas, like, there's also in dialogue, there's just sentiments that are added that you can emphasize certain words. And I mean, you can do the same thing with grunting. I mean, you know, with some of the, like when Spear is standing on the beach and just being like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. It's an interesting, it's just a unique challenge because I get to, like I said before, I get to rely on the picture, the amazing picture. I just don't get to rely on dialogue to get my point across. So it's so if I don't get to rely on dialogue, I get to see this incredible animation that has so much emotion in it already. And so I'm just kind of adding to the emotion. There was a moment, okay, you asked me before, what's my favorite Genndy moment, and it's just one moment, and it was in the I'm so embarrassed I don't remember, but the one with the mammoth, a cold death. And Spear at one point in the episode, I can't remember exactly when, but at one point just kind of went, and the breathing out and seeing the breath, and I could hear Genndy go, he's alive. Like he actually said that in kind of just a funny tossed off way.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. So yeah.
Cool, man. This one made me laugh out loud in the middle of a Publix store, and I got a bunch of looks like I was crazy. But this guy wanted to know, how does he hype himself up to go monkey mode? And he spelled monkey Monke. I thought that was hilarious. I don't know why I thought it was so funny, but to go monkey mode, obviously you talked about, you know, singing opera, 90s hip hop, a lot of Snoop. But is there anything that you do when you have to go like super, no pun intended, when you have to go super primal for Spear? Is there anything that you do to hype yourself up to get in that headspace?
Yeah, I sort of take heaving breaths and I go, and I stick my tongue out and just kind of like, there's something about, because going from like totally still to then like snapping into like, it kind of messes with your jaw a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think I have my teeth are kind of messed up and I have kind of an overbite, so my jaw is I have a little bit of pain in my jaw, so I should kind of get it going and to just kind of heave so that you can just kind of like fill yourself up with oxygen, and so that when you go like or whatever, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't hurt you. So that's how I do it. It's purely mechanical because the emotion will the emotion will just come out.
Yeah.
You know?
The next one. This one's a hypothetical because I know they have not named it, at least in the credits so far, because I wanted to look for this one to ask this question. But that TWD fan '09 wants to know. Hypothetically, what are the names of Fang's hatchlings with red? Do they have canon names? And if not, what would you name them? So this is a hypothetical for you. If you could name Fang's two dinosaur babies, what would you name them?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Stephen and Gerald.
Hey, those are great names. Gerald sounds like he'd have a top hat. Um, Endless Resets wants to know, what do you want most for Spear, and what would be a happy ending in your eyes for the character Spear?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that I would just say if there was I can't say exactly. There's something about redemption,
Mm-hmm.
and whether that redemption comes from like an action or a feeling or a relationship or something. But obviously, like what happens to him in the very beginning episode, what happens to his family, that there would somehow be some kind of full circle thing. I mean, the thing about it is that like I'm being completely honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
This is all ambiguous to me
Yeah.
in terms of like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all ambiguous. So it's like I can't. I mean, obviously, it's not like I do interviews about Primal all the time, and they don't need me to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if somebody's going to do an interview about Primal, it's going to be Gendy or
Yeah.
Scott or you know what I mean, like one of the producers. And so it's not about like an NDA or anything. It really is just kind of like they're going wherever they want to go with it.
Yeah.
And I am either and I'm just and I am just along for the ride.
Yeah.
And but what I would I mean I some kind of full circle redemption
Mm-hmm.
would be nice.
Absolutely. I think it'd be a beautiful way. Um, uh, Nickelode wants to know what has been his favorite character design. So, is there any character out there? Look, let's take Spear completely out of it, so we have to make you think about the other character for just a few.
The big bats.
Yeah.
Under the Blood Moon, or I think it's called Blood Moon or something.
Could you imagine those bastards swooping down and picking you up when you're going out to your car?
I just loved it because I was just so like, I mean, again, this is just me as a fan saying like, I loved that, Frankenstein was kind of represented in Rage of the Ape Men.
Mm-hmm.
I love that Dracula, I love that zombies, even though like I know that maybe Gendy wouldn't say zombie. I don't know, you know what I mean? Because I love monsters.
Yeah.
So, I think that the bats and also in the Plague of Madness,
Mm-hmm.
the zombified, I mean, because that's what we say, dinosaur was incredible.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Spooky as shit too. Burke Wob, I think I pronounced that one right. God damn. God. If you were put in the world of Primal, how long would you survive? And how would you last longer than an hour? So they're not really giving you much hope here. I think they said you're only going to really last an hour. But if you were in the world of Primal, how long do you think you'd last?
I would make an apron out of palm fronds and just clean Spear's cave so he would protect me. I mean, like I would, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would survive as long as Spear wanted to protect me from all the things that I would be completely ill-equipped to handle.
There was a lot of people that wanted a lot of people were hoping that you would do this interview in character. That's what a couple of those questions where they're like, man, I really hope he does it in character. What so we talked about this a little bit, but we didn't go into detail. So maybe you might be able to throw out maybe just a point here for this one. But what challenges arise? Nope, to take that back. Will you have more spoken lines going forward? Consider that Spear seems to get more civilized slowly as the show goes on. Obviously, you can't talk about what's coming next, but do you think that he'll start to learn more vocabulary as he's opening up his world of expansion?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, because I think that, like, yeah, that would seem like that it would go in that direction, but I think that people make a big deal out of the fact that it's that there's no dialogue, and that is a big part of it. But the animation is about, well, I don't know what it's about, but for me, it's about movement.
Yes.
It's about visual storytelling, and I mean, like, silent comedies like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. You know what killed their movies? Cartoons.
Oh, cartoons.
Because you could do something in a cartoon that was just crazy, and it
Yes.
didn't have to. You can still be silent. And even though we look back and we see the house falling on him, it's the most incredible thing you've ever saw.
Mhm.
But people just kind of seeing the animated cartoons and seeing that you could, I mean, it's the first time anybody saw anything like that, where anything could happen on the
Yes.
screen. So what was the question again? Sorry.
Oh, no, you're perfectly fine. I just swiped. Do you think that he'll gain more lines, or he'll gain more of a
Well,
vocabulary as it progresses?
So I think that, like, I think that it's not, I don't know if it ever has been. And I don't think, oh, let me put it this way. This is just my opinion.
Okay.
I don't think it needs to be about him learning how to speak.
Absolutely.
I think that because even if he had a British accent and started just talking, he can't speak, Fang and him, their relationship, you know what I mean? Like, it's,
Yes.
and also too, it's, if you want to talk about like diversity, inclusion,
Mm-hmm.
many different people, many different types, many different experiences all coming together and relating to each other, fighting each other, coming to understand each other, that there shouldn't be that much. There shouldn't be.
Yes. Absolutely.
There just shouldn't be. So and there's something to be said about, what's neat about the show too, is that obviously it's really big now, but it's also like all over the world. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to speak English. There's no, like, I mean, it's just all over the world. It's all about feeling. And I think it's kind of neat to sort of go back to that, because that's what used to be. And then people were like, I don't know about this sound business, how it's going to change everything. You know what I mean? It's like, well, obviously there's going to be fucking sound in movies, you assholes. But it's cool to kind of go back. And also too, that, I mean, okay, sorry, I'm going to just go out on a fucking limb here for a second.
Go for it.
It's similar to this. In the 50s and late 50s, cheap programming for new television stations were old horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
So the children of the late 50s, 60s, and on up, when they were kids, in addition to kid shows, cartoon shows, whatever, they watched Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, the Invisible Man, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, all that kind of Universal monster stuff. That stuff was made years before they were born. It's a trend, you know what I mean? It's like a trend that kids shouldn't be watching something from that far ago, but they were. And when those kids came of age, it was the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Steven Spielberg,
Yes.
And George Lucas, and you know what I mean? Like, and all the people that made the movies. So what's neat is, like, now, as much as, like, obviously there's all kinds of streaming and you got to get all these things and everybody thinks about how bad everything is, kids, like, I would walk into a video store and I could, there were so many movies right there and you could just choose.
Yeah.
Well, now that is the case too. You can just choose. Now, unfortunately, people are looking at their phones a lot and kind of messing around on their phones, but any kid that has a particular interest can go in that direction. So I would think that Primal is the kind of thing that it's like a lightning rod of inspiration, for these kids, very much. And animation without, what I'm getting at is animation without dialogue happened long before these kids were born.
Oh, yeah.
So now being treated to it again, and they are going to value it, hopefully.
Oh, they might not. It might be the same way it was with me when I was a younger kid. I loved Samurai Jack, but I could not appreciate it for what it truly was. an absolute masterpiece. It wasn't until I, gained a little bit of perspective, got a little older, and looked at it again from a different lens, almost 20 years after the fact. And I was like, wow, this is something special. It's gonna be the same thing with Primal.
Yeah, and I think also too, I feel like with Gendy, this is just my opinion of him, that it is his taste.
Yes.
And obvious taste of his collaborators, but it is his taste. And so it can either be yours or not.
Yeah.
But boy, is he inching his way into universality. He
Yes,
always has been there. You know what I mean? A universal appeal. It's just that it's just interesting, like the value of cartoons and how people say, like, well, I don't watch cartoons. Do you watch Rick and Morty? Well, yeah, I always watch Rick and Morty. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah. Anyway, let's get on with some questions so we can get these people's questions in.
Absolutely. Man, how do you feel? How do you feel about the Egyptian queen?
I mean, I think she's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really think she's awesome. I love the design. And I think there's just a lot of like, it's interesting to see an animated show and see the choices being made.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like the ruthless, like when you watch, it's like, I'm not comparing the two, but when some people watch like Game of Thrones or something, and like something happens, or some character does something that just shocks you, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like there's a lot of the whole show is filled with characters like that. Spear being one of them.
Absolutely.
It's like, holy shit. It's and not like it's not like I don't know. It just, I mean, I'm feel lucky that I feel like, I'm joking when I say this, but I feel like I'm the fan that gets to see it first every time.
Hey, that's the best.
Because everybody's working on it, and of course they're all fans, but they work on it. They're the ones making it. So I feel like towards the end of when it's all kind of being mixed together, a fan gets to come in and like experience it, but I don't take the experience in completely. I try to forget everything I saw.
Yeah.
So that when I leave, I just call my girlfriend. I start talking to her about something else, so that I can just forget it. And also, too, I'm not supposed to talk about it, so it's fine. Even if somebody did want me to talk about it, I wouldn't know what the fuck to tell them, because I'm just like, I don't know, man. It's gonna be cool. Whatever. It's coming out.
Yeah,
But,
like I said, there's something special about you liking what you do. It translates on the screen. Like, they would not be putting out this amazing show if they didn't care about it, if they didn't like it, if it was half-assed. Like, man, I'm just doing this for a paycheck. You can tell from the first pencil that's hitting that iPad to the first voice that's bumping up against that mic. You guys are loving what you're doing, and we appreciate that. Nozaki Mufasa wants to know, what's your favorite dinosaur?
There's something about a brachiosaurus, and the reason why is because I did have one of those theatrical sort of transcendent experiences when I saw Jurassic Park for the first time.
Yeah.
And seeing the brachiosaurus for the first time, and even like just seeing a fleshed out dinosaur out in the sun like that for the first time on a big screen was, it's like, it's akin to like people that went and saw King Kong when it was in the theater. You know what I mean? You're just like, holy shit. And I feel like that dinosaur, like when I think of a dinosaur, my favorite gas station is Sinclair with the green brontosaurus.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a brontosaurus. And that's why the Plague of Madness was also cool. And so like, they're such peaceful creatures, and then it's just upsetting, in addition to being scary.
Yeah, I've always been quite fond of the Triceratops myself. This was a two-parter. So, and what dinosaur or creature that hasn't appeared in Primal would you want to see if you could? So, is there a creature or a monster that you haven't seen yet that you would absolutely love to see?
I mean, boy, I can't really say. I mean, because I don't think I could be as creative as what's already there. I mean, I like anything. I would just say anything. I love seeing dinosaurs, but anything that's like monster related, you know, that's kind of that's what I like. And so I feel like, you know, I mean, in a way, what I thought was so cool too is, and I'm reading into this, but you've got Dracula with the bats, you have Frankenstein, Rage of the Eggman, and you almost have like the Invisible Man with the night feeder.
Yes.
Where the thread is out there and it's invisible, even though it's not, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's so I get a kick out of those ones. Anything that's like monster related or yeah.
Have you ever been out to Florida?
I built Habitat for Humanity houses just south of Miami for a while when I was about 19.
Yeah.
And the only time I've ever been out there, and we went down to Key West a couple times, but I mean, like, I just lived in South Miami. We'd go to South Beach every now and again, but that's the only time I've ever been out there.
If you ever get the chance to come out here, let me know ahead of time, and I'll I'll send you a link for it. The Creature of the Black Lagoon was actually filmed out in Ocala, so they still have the statue that's sunk below where they were doing the diving and stuff, and you can actually go and snorkel and see it. So if you ever get to come out here, I'll send you the address and then you can hook it up.
Love that.
So, yeah. This one's fun. You don't have to do this one if you don't want to, but Rick the Squirrel wants to know, what would a conversation between the Duke and Spear be like? How would that conversation go?
Well. I've been waiting for you, Mr. Spear. Anyone has heard of the likes of you. Thank you for your patronage.
Thank you. We already did that one. This one, yeah, we'll end it on this one. This one I thought was funny. I thought they were being a dick, but you know, they explained it after. But like I said, this one I thought was funny. I have just one question, and I apologize if I pronounce this incorrectly. Hua Hong Ha Rrr. Sincerely, a concerned Primal fan. So, what would you like to tell them? They were concerned, is what they said. I hope that's the answer you were looking for, concerned Primal fan. But like I said, Aaron, this has been an absolute blast, an absolute treat for me. I loved getting to talk to you, pick your brain for a little while. Like I know you've done more than Primal, but this show is like I told you at the beginning. This show is so special. It's so beautiful. This is a film that we're getting 10 episodes. I think it's 10 or 12 episodes at 20 minutes a pop each week. Like I said, there from start to finish, this is amazing. This is a masterpiece, and you're a huge part of that as well, man. Where can the fans go and find you if they say, hey, I know you dropped a little bit earlier your Instagram.
Oh yeah,
your Instagram handle, but where can they find you?
I have Twitter. It's Aaron LaPlante 5, but I don't. Twitter is not something that I don't even know. Every time I look at it, I'm like, what the fuck is going? It's just
a dumpster fire.
Reaction.
Yeah.
Well, you try to trace it back to what people are reacting to, and it's just like, and then I think I don't know. There's like this. I like to just kind of do stuff and then like not try to stoke the fires of my own. I don't know, like tweeting and just being like, hey guys, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, it's more, if I'm like going through my life and there's something fucking weird or funny, I'll post it. Or if I have a picture with my girlfriend, she's fucking gorgeous, we'll just like take a picture and then be like, I have a fucking gorgeous girlfriend, you guys, look at her.
Yeah,
that kind of shit. I like that kind of stuff. But other than that, like the kind of check-ins and the like, and if there's something coming out, I go, hey, check me out on this or whatever. So that's just kind of there, but I don't really engage with it. And with Instagram, I fucking waste my time with it, just like everybody does, way too much. And so, you know, like, so Duder3 at Duder3, Dooder 3. I should probably change it to like Aaron Spear, whatever the fuck. You know, somebody probably already took that one, but so yeah, that's where you can find me. And then otherwise, I mean, like if you just go on like YouTube and just type in my name. In fact, if you go on YouTube and just type in my name, you can see the panel that we did at ComicCon. Somebody filmed it,
yeah,
and it's we did a table read where Gendy read the action lines and I did Spear's voice. And it was weird at first. People were just kind of like, what are they doing? But then I started really getting after it, and they were like, they started cheering. It was fucking great. So you can, yeah, you know, because I also do sketch comedy. You can find all kinds of weird shit that I did in the past. So check that out.
That's a great plug. You can find a whole bunch of weird shit I did back in the day. Just Google it, man.
There's one that I did. So there's one that I did once that I made for like a film and stage festival, and it was called The Dog Talker, and it was me with my phone filming like I was a guy who was trying to sell a show called The Dog Talker.
Yeah.
And the like part of the bit was like, okay, we all have heard of the dog whisperer, but what does that do? Hey, get off the couch. Or hey, get off the couch. Like, so it was like this whole thing. And I filmed it as if it was like a pitch to the networks. And we showed it, and it's super weird. And I weigh so much more than I do now. It's the weirdest thing ever. And I look at it every now and again, and there are people like going like, Spear? Just like, you know, because that's another thing. It's a new day. It's like I work. I mean, I'm a voice actor. I'm lucky to be a voice actor for a living, but I don't work that much. I mean, I get by, you know, it's like job to job. So it's interesting, like now when you see these people who are on these big shows, you go back and look at their career, you're going to find these weird little videos that they did when they didn't have anything going on, you know. And I think that it's interesting. It's like the humble beginnings, which you can see that stuff now, like, but it's so neat to like look back. I am certainly not comparing myself, but when you look back to like Spielberg and you see like that's the first movies that he did, or what, you know what I mean? Like it's interesting to see people kind of cutting their teeth, and there's not really a way to like cut your teeth on voiceover other than to just be in your room and do voices into your computer, you know what I mean, and just try to put together a reel.
Absolutely, man. We'll end it with this. So about 2 years ago, once COVID started, I was home almost all the time with the oldest son. We didn't have the baby yet, and my wife was the one working. So generally, when she was working, I already cook at home anyways, but I was cleaning. I was just trying to do everything I could to make sure the house was good, the food was good. You know, nobody had to worry, nobody had to stress, because like I said, I was at home. I have two huskies, right? I have a female and a male. The female's name is Ollie, and the male's name is Diggle. If you ever watched the Green Arrow show, Ollie and Diggle were the two characters. That's what I named them after, right?
Nice.
Cool. So the female is extremely intelligent. The male is extremely dumb. You look at him, sweetest dog I've ever had in my life, dumb as a box of rocks. You look at the female, you're like, oh, you're an actual person in there, right? So I had a pretty big bag of THC laced cookies that day, and I was doing, just my husbandly duties, and I'm scrubbing the toilet, right downstairs. I'm scrubbing the toilet, making sure it's all clean, wiping it down, and I hear hello, and I look back, and Ollie, my female husky, she's behind me, and I'm like, no, get the fuck out of here. And I looked at her, I'm like, do it again. And then she's just looking, her tail's wagging, and no sound. I'm like, I heard you talk, do it again. Nothing, right? So I go back and I'm cleaning the toilet. I had forgot about the cookies I'd had, cleaning the toilet, and I said, I said hello, and I shut the fuck up. Do it again. I felt like I was in that. I can't remember the frog's name, but hello, my baby. Hello, my dog.
Yeah, Michigan J Frog.
Thank you. I knew. Yeah. So I felt like that's what it was going to be. I was like, oh my fucking God, nobody is going to fucking believe it. I'm talking out loud. I was like, nobody's going to fucking believe me that my dog can talk. All I've ever wanted is my dog can talk. She's talking. Nobody's fucking here. Nobody's going to believe it. I was losing my shit, right? And then all I hear is pick up your fucking phone. And I'm like, oh shit. I didn't realize I had butt dialed my wife. So she was on speaker hearing me, convinced that my dog could talk. And all it was THC laced cookies, ladies and gentlemen. So if you think your dog can talk, you're probably
dogs. And I've heard him say this in interviews, so I'm not speaking out of school, but Fang is based off of Gendy's dog.
Really?
He has a big same card. And so some of the actions of Fang is like having a big dog, especially getting like out by the butterflies in that one scene. Yeah. Anyway.
That's pretty cool, man. But like I said, Aaron, I'm so glad you came on this show. He's been
Thanks
Aaron.
for having me.
Oh man, anytime you want to come back on, let me know, man. We'll set something up because, like I said, this is a blast, a real treat for me. But he's been Aaron. I've been Julian. This has been the What's in My Head podcast, and this has been another piece of your childhood. Good night. My guest next week is Matthias Lechner. Enjoy the teaser. Feeling like when your movie, obviously going to a theater is one thing, but Netflix at 7:00 p.m. PST, or what we'll say, right? It drops. It is open to millions of viewers at once. What is that feeling like, knowing that it's out there for everybody to see right now?
It's my first time, so it wasn't quite as exciting as when a Disney movie drops. Because there's a lot of, anticipation and drums being beat before the movie comes out, and there's hardcore fans. It comes into the cinema. That was before pandemic. And then you get the numbers, and it's a good weekend or not a good weekend, and hopefully it's a hit and all that stuff. In Netflix, there was not much advertising for the movie.
Yes.
So everybody I knew and had worked on the movie, and everybody I could engage was like, put it out on social media, talk about it, put it on, so I've never really pushed a movie on social media, but this one I tried as much as possible, because you have to get on the top 10. Then people start seeing it, and I was pretty convinced if people see it, they're probably gonna like it, because I like it. So you kind of hope. So what was exciting was seeing it in the cinema. Like I said, we did it in the pandemic. So the screen I was working on was like I'm looking at you right now. It's a computer screen. And we only had like a couple of times where we checked in the cinema if it kind of checks out a couple of sequences. But to see the whole thing in the cinema for the first time was amazing. And that was in Annecy. And so you have this, I don't know how many people were there, like 900 animation nerds in one cinema. And you show your movie for the first time. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
So you show your movie to that crowd, and they're excited. That was like the best, because I mean we did make the movie on a little screen, and it is made for TV in some way because it's Netflix, but we also try to we all want to make cinema movies, really, so